Welcome back, everybody. This is the second half of June 1941 of Unconditional Surrender. Me, myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. The game is designed by Salvatore Vasta, published by GMT Games. The Axis Barbarossa took almost 50 minutes for me to execute, so this is going to be the Western and Soviet responses, and hopefully the end of turn things as well. The British, realizing, having gamed through the possibilities of an English, a German invasion of England, we've gone directly into Western operations phase. We already did the end of German operations, East invaded things. So the British are going to move this fleet out here, not national tracks. The Germans do not have their surface action marker at this point. So 1, 2 to 9, 3 and 4, and land in Edinburgh. The reason for that is that I can now intercept the convoy when it goes into North Sea 11, possibly putting sorties on it, which would keep it from being able to get down here to the English Channel with enough sorties to actually make an invasion viable. And the other thing I'm going to do is things that I should have done before, but I didn't. The airplane fighter command goes into 2109, also takes another sortie. That is more than 7 away from anything that the Germans can do, but it is 5 away from London, Birmingham, Cardiff, Liverpool, Manchester, Hull, Newcastle. Any of those cities can be defended by the airplane. So the Germans will have to fight me in the air rather than ground strike me or bring an airplane over into England, which makes it even harder for them to supply. The other thing that the fleet does when it's sitting in Edinburgh is that it is 2 sea zones from 10, so it can actually intercept the English Channel. If the Germans want to go out and invade via Plymouth, Plymouth is a nice little peninsula there that we can basically cut off by placing units in Cardiff and Southampton and making them fight their way out of southeast England, which would be fine by me as the British. Knowing this as the Germans and seeing the British are now properly set up, I'm probably not even going to entertain the idea except if I'm really, really bored. In the Mediterranean, I really don't want to tempt fate here, as it were, with the British. I kind of want to get my sorties down. I have to supply at least 3 units every turn, probably 4. So I'm not really thinking of trying to take any offensive actions at this point. At some point I will have to. I'm thinking that I might, in the future, maybe go and attack Syria and Baghdad for supply purposes, but right now I don't need them. The Germans seem to be engrossed in Barbarossa, so I'm not going to rock the boat, as it were. So the British are done. They have to do their supply. Well, actually, no, there's one other thing I was going to do. I'm going to take this convoy. I'm going to spend 1 to activate the 10th Army, and I can sail to here for a sortie. And I'm going to take this ship and move it into Suez for a sortie. The reason why I do this, having the 10th out here, what we're doing here is I am now 1 move away from being able to drop this into England. Okay? That would be 4 sorties. A 5th sortie could get me to Gibraltar. A 6th sortie could bring back the Gibraltar infantry unit into England. I could have 3 garrison units in 3 different cities, making a German invasion without armor problematic, because I will have air. They'll have to throw in their air. We get into a whole really serious battle for England that I'm not sure the Germans can win. It'd be a shoestring at best. And by being in the Western Indian Ocean, I also am one move away from just getting back into Cairo or Port Said just by moving one of these convoys out. In supply phase, I'm going to supply the aircraft, the BEF, Western Desert Force, and the 9th. So that's going to be, I'm going to put 3 sorties on this one, and I'm going to add a sortie to that one, to the one in Alexandria. And then I'll be working on taking these sorties off. I'm going to be low on production points. I'm only going to have like 12 next turn. So it might be a little bit before I can mount enough production points to keep my supply going and be able to, set up true offensive operations with tanks, markers, and airplane and all that. So right now we're just kind of sitting on everything. So that was 1 production point I forgot to take off for my 10th Army move. And that takes the Western Allies are done. We go into the Soviet operations phase. And I placed an infantry in Bryansk, Kharkov, Dupnovsk, Vilaluka, and Minsk. And then now I'm going to try to set up my defenses as best I can. I have a lot of production points this turn, so I'm not worried about moving things and stuff like that. Basically, we're going to try to defend forward here with the rough terrain and the rivers. So we're actually going to move out of Minsk and into this forest for one. The first thing we're going to do, the Germans gave me a gift. I realized that I had kind of left the 4th Army hanging out there, so the 28th is going to activate and go 1, 2, 3 and attack the 4th. It is in an isolated state, no one adjacent to it, and zones of control around it, no retreats. So that means the Russians are now at +2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The German aircraft can't reach, so I'm going to go ahead and throw in an aircraft that I just got to put on the board for Dupnovsk. That's why I kind of based it there. So that gives me another +2. I am +4 to the German +2 because they're German. So we'll roll and see how the Russians do. A 1 plus a 4 is not good. That's a 5. And the Germans get a 1 plus 4 is a 3. I don't think that's good enough. No, it is not. The Germans lose a step. And since the Russians only used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they had 3 movement points left. They'll use 2 of them to attack here. Now the Germans are at a straight-up die roll, and they will use another sortie on the airplane to keep themselves at +4. So now they're +4 to a straight die roll. And the Russians roll. A 6 plus 4 is a 10. That is a guarantee if you look on the combat results table. A 10, no matter what I roll on the die roll, I'll get at least a retreat. So, the Russians actually score a victory here in the summer of June of 1941, in that they eliminate the German 4th Army. How's them apples, kids? And then they will take the Hex. That sets up my defensive posture for the rest of the turn here. One of the things I did look up, and maybe I have this rule wrong, but I'm playing it this way. A unit is defined as there's naval units, air units, and ground units. The paradrop marker can only be placed in a city with no unit. So I am assuming that an aircraft unit, like in Dupnovsk, or the convoy unit in Salvatore, prevent the airdrop unit from automatically capturing the city. If that's wrong, then I've been playing the game wrong. But I believe that those are enough. They have enough ground troops that they can hold off the paratroops until somebody gets there to help. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where the Salvatore guy goes. That's 3 activations. I probably should be keeping track of this. I don't think it matters that much for the Russians, but we should just follow form. That's 3. 7, 8 can go here. Oh no, he's going to go forward or back, forward or back. I have to think about where I want to put Kharkov. Let's look at the swamp dude. This guy in this Pripyat march is going to back up. Yeah, so 1, 2. Let's activate him. 3, 4. 5. And this guy is going to activate and go 1, 2. Kind of gives me the idea here is I'm trying to get myself retreated into places like Kiev or beyond the Dnieper River. That to me is the way to survive this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I had one guy up there, 5. So, yep. The 6th one is Bryansk, goes into here, because that's just a really nice hex to defend in. 2746, if you're not aware of what hex that is. And then the Kharkov unit, I'm not sure if I should go to the early bend in the Dnieper, or if I should be back by a Depnostric and defending in front of there. It's kind of a dilemma. It's a long run to Depnostric. I will have some builds that will be coming in at Kharkov and Rostov next turn. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put him in front of the river. 1, 2, 3, dang it, 4. Actually, I'm going to put him behind the river, 5, 6. We're going to go there into 3048. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here in the south, 1 already in the center there, so that's 7. Vedalucha is going to go into 2143. It's another one of those bends in the river that are nice to defend. The 27th is leaving Lenningrad and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 into Tallinn. And then the 6th goes 1, 2 into the Leningrad fort. Or 2 more. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is 10 that I have moved. I'm going to keep the guys in the northern Pripyat marches here, just because it limits his movement around Vilnius and stuff. Make him kill Vilnius. Vilnius will be able to be replaced in the replacements phase. I'll bring up all my aircraft so that he'll have to fight my aircraft. And we will see how we defend this line in July. That essentially is the Russian turn. They spent 10 production points. And everything is in supply now. Broke through it there and saved Odessa garrison and killed a German. Oh, which reminds me, that means the German willpower is not at 63 anymore. It's at 62, because I killed a German real infantry that was defending. Isn't that wonderful? I've actually scored my first point on them. So that's the Russians' operations phase. We go to the no supply phase. As far as I know, I don't have any no supply markers on anything. No, just low supplies. So there's none of that. Don't have to do any step losses and removal of... We could remove fleets and things if we wanted to, but that's kind of pointless at this point. Go to replacements for the Axis. Let's just do the Italians since I'm down here. I don't think the Italians actually spent anything, did they? Oh no, they still got their full 12. So I think I want to get back my airplane for sure. And I think I want to get this convoy that's not opposed at the moment. So that's 6. That leaves me 6. What to do? I could clear this 3, or I could clear a fleet. I think, looking at this long term, that... Wrong eliminated box. I've got something to build. I've got a garrison to build, so I'm going to go ahead and clear a fleet. Take 2 sorties off the second fleet so that I can use it for some supply over here for the meantime. And then that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm down to 2. And the Germans are at 6. So the Germans, they're at 6, which means they can only clear 2 of their aircraft. They just had to spend a little bit too much because the die rolls didn't go their way. So the first one they got to spend 3 on is this guy. And then they're going to take down the 5, I think. And then that would be their 6. 0. And that's the end of the replacements phase for the Axis. The West has 13. So here's 9. 2, 3, 6, 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I can do a fleet. Question is do I want to do the Mediterranean fleet, or do I want to do the Atlantic fleet, the fleet that's up here in Edinburgh? Part of me wants to do the fleet that's in Edinburgh. It says it's the Med fleet, just to make it more effective against any kind of shenanigans the Germans might be thinking of doing. But the Med fleet, I know it's going to be clear, so I might be able to screw up the Italian supply tracks. So, with that in mind, I guess I'm going to go with the Med. I have to go for the long term here. If I have to fight for England, then I will fight for England. I'm going to clear the home fleet, which is in Alexandria right now. And that's 4. So the British are done. And then we go on to the Soviets. Soviets have some replacements, for sure. They've got some aircraft here. So that's 3. This one makes 6. This one makes 9. So that's 9. They're down to 11. And then they can flip the guy in Vilnius, because he was in supply. He's in home city, so he's always in supply. And I don't think I have anything else that needs a flipping. So I am done with the Russian replacements phase. We don't have any upgrades yet. Mobilization, the Axis does have a bit of mobilization here for the Italians. The Italians will spend another one to bring in their 7th Garrison. Put it in Rome. No, put it in Genoa. In case I'm missing some kind of long-range silly invasion thing. Yeah, go put it there. Okay. And no one else has anything in the mobilization boxes. Have things in the eliminated box that will go to the mobilization box very soon. Yeah, we are done with mobilization. There is no diplomacy because everybody's at war, so nobody's talking. And there is no... they haven't conquered Germany yet, so we go to end of turn phase. We get onto the turn track here. And we are now going to be going into July. The Germans get their tanks marker back. The Germans also get their submarines marker back. The Western Allies get an ultra marker. That's interesting. The Russians get their tanks markers back. They used. And they also get a Urals factory. So, one will be going on the national track. In their extra factories. And then the one that's still on the track goes up 2 turns, so they'll get another one in September. And next turn will be July. I will probably start off with strategic warfare when I start up the next scenario, or the next episode, simply because the weather's always going to be fair for the next 3 turns. I doubt very much I see any kind of declaration of war. I might see something from the British on like Syria or something, but I probably will wait until later on when I know that I have U.S. troops on the way and stuff like that. It's just to get platforms in North Africa and stuff to be able to invade Italy. I think I'll be waiting on that. So we are done with this turn. Go down here to my spot where I always end the turns. Like I said, we're going to start in the economy phase. Well, the economies I'll have done before we start up again. So we're actually going to start in the strategic warfare phase when I start this up again, to get past a few minutes at least of bookkeeping that gets taken care of offline. So this has been the second half of 1941. The Russians were successfully killed the German Fourth Army and made them lose a will point. That was in 32-46, overextended itself. They've set up what they hope is a line that will at least slow the Germans down in July to allow them to build. Oh, that's one thing we didn't do. Things that are in the eliminated box go into the mobilization. Germans get their Fourth Army back. The Russians will have 7 infantry to build next turn. But they will only have 24 production points to do all their stuff with. So they won't be moving a lot, hopefully. But they have a ton of infantry coming to be dropped into cities all behind the line. So hopefully, they'll have some semblance of a line on the river lines at the end of July. And then in August, the Germans will probably break the Dnieper and be pushing on Smolensk, and probably have taken the Baltic states. And the idea is by September, you want them to be attacking you in all these rough terrain squares outside here around Smolensk with rivers and Bryansk. And hopefully they will only get as far as someplace like Kursk and Kharkov before the bad weather sets in, and then the Russians can form up their line and possibly do something in the Russian winter. The Russian winter is not as bad as I've been led to believe. But you'll see when we get there. It's bad for the Germans, believe me. They can't do anything other than defend themselves. But it's not as good for the Russians as you might think it is. It's very selective attacks is all you should be doing. You can't attack the whole line. So that is this turn, with a little bit of rambling at the end, talking about what we're going to be heading into in 1941. This has been Dren 608, the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of the main event of the game Unconditional Surrender. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment on what you like or don't like. And if you haven't done so already, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the video. Thank you, and goodbye.